Today on the news and why it matters, Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump both accuse each other of having a meltdown after a meeting between Democrat leaders and the White House. We have got the details. Who was it really who was having a meltdown? Don't change the channel. It starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, for those of you Hispanics out there. You're welcome, Beto. Joined today by Stuber here.
Thank you.
Aaron Colin.
Hello.
From theblaze.com, who just wrote a really awesome editorial op-ed about the Fort Worth shooting that everyone needs to go see on theblaze.com right now. It is up there. It's on the trending stories. And Mr. Rob Eno, Blaze Media critic, thanks for being here. We got a lot to get into. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So Relief Factor is for people like maybe my husband, who literally was just out there earlier and turned. I'm not kidding. He went like this and then went, oh my God, my back. And now he's been complaining about his back since. So I'm like, what did you do? I don't know. I just turned. And it was a small turn too. So if you just hurt. He's in my ear. He doesn't like that I just told you guys that story. If you just hurt all the time and you don't know why, or you're to the age like my husband is, where you just can't function and do things like stand up straight and walk, Relief Factor is for you. It is 100% drug-free. It targets the inflammation in your body. That's usually the cause of your pain. You don't realize it. You don't need to take big pharmaceutical drugs just to mask what's going on. You don't need to, go do acupuncture. Okay, I'm not going to say you don't need to go get a massage, because go get your massages. But in addition to that, you got to try Relief Factor. Get the 3-week Quick Start Pack. It works for the majority of people who use this 3-week Quick Start Pack. They go on to keep ordering more. So you can get that for $19.95. All you have to do is go to relieffactor.com, or you can call 800-500-8384. That is relieffactor.com. Get out of pain. It's life-changing. What are you waiting for? relieffactor.com. So everyone's talking about this crazy meeting that the White House had with Democrat leaders last night. They were talking about the issues going on in Turkey and Syria. And of course, the Democrats now all of a sudden are really upset that Trump would dare pull troops out of somewhere. They're very, very pro troops going into foreign countries now. So, Aaron, what was it that transpired that you heard that we were discussing off air?
What I heard was that when Trump sat down, he didn't want to be there, first of all. And he said, you guys want this meeting, so you guys can have it. And here we are. And they probably didn't really talk about anything before he called, apparently, Nancy Pelosi a third grade or third-rate politician. I don't know which one is better or worse.
Hilarious.
That apparently sent her over the edge, and she was out. So much for Syria, I guess.
I believe that these comments came after Trump made the comment that the Kurds
there's some commies there. You guys might like that.
Yeah. Right. These Kurds over here, they're commies, which you guys would probably like. Well, how dare he say something like that? And then that is where we got do we have the picture? Do we have the picture of Nancy Pelosi? There she is. She's standing up in the middle of that meeting, wagging her finger at President Trump, who is sitting there. He looks to be calm as a cucumber.
She's taking on sexism right there in that picture.
Don't even get me started, Aaron.
Nevertheless, she persisted.
We are gonna get to that part of it, because it's driving me bonkers listening to all these feminists like, oh my gosh, how strong and brave of her to stand up and shake her finger at President Trump. Shut up. So here is a little bit of what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer had to say in their little press conference that they held after the meeting. Watch.
Witness on the part of the president was a meltdown. Sad to say.
Speaker Pelosi, did the impeachment inquiry?
No, it didn't come up. It did not come up. Not at all. No, it did not come up. It did not come up.
When he called you a communist, can you just elaborate?
No, he did not call us a communist. He said, yes.
He said, let's just clarify that. He said the communists are taking, or
some of ISIS were
communists, and you would be happy.
That might make you happy.
That might make you happy.
No, and the speaker said, yes, we walked out.
At that point?
Yeah.
No, at the point that he was.
When he started calling Speaker Pelosi, a third-rate politician.
Which I said, I wish you were a politician, Mr. President, then you would know the art of the possible. But
Yeah, some of the other members on both sides stayed behind. They wanted questions. I waited a moment because I wanted to ask him the question about intelligence reports on the Turks and Syrians guarding ISIS.
So, Stu, Nancy Pelosi calling for prayers for President Trump because he very clearly is a very sick man. President Trump, of course, tweeted about it because he can't help but tweet about it, but also kind of said the same thing about Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi needs help fast. There's either something wrong with her upstairs or she just plain doesn't like our great country. How do these people keep getting elected? That was a train wreck. That was a circus right there.
I don't know. We have a lot of government programs, so we need one for better comebacks because as of right now, that's
didn't land.
Awful.
That one, did not land. You know, first of all, we should. I'd heard this. They were talking about ISIS and communists, and I think what they were talking about were the Kurds. Syrian Kurds, which large portions of them actually are Marxists. That didn't stop us from fighting with them, as we point out earlier that it's they are a designated terrorist group, legally. However, they did work very well with us and fought our battles against ISIS, and we're very helpful there. But that does not stop them from having a belief in Marxism, which they do. So that's actually a factual thing. Kurds are different; like they're not all exactly the same. Different groups have different beliefs. But with Nancy Pelosi, I mean, it's just embarrassing, right? I mean, she just. There's literally no part of her day which functions in the idea of to try to get something done. She doesn't say things that are real. She's constantly posturing, and they come out and run to the microphones like they're telling on their little brother. It really is pathetic.
Yeah, Aaron.
This is what happens when you have the impeachment thing hanging over everything, because they might not talk about it in the meeting, but it's there between every interaction that they're going to have. They're not going to be focused on the main issue. They're going to be focused on the fact that Nancy Pelosi wants nothing more than to get Trump out of office, and he hates them because he knows that they're trying to undermine him at every turn. So how do you negotiate on something like that? And it overlooks the fact that there are lives at stake with what they decide to do in Syria and Turkey. But they didn't talk about that. They come talk about, well, they called me names, and so I wasn't going to stand for that, so I walked out. It's childish, it's immature, and it really is embarrassing for the country.
Yeah, Rob, do you agree?
Yeah, I think the big thing here, right, is that people don't understand how Trump operates, or they don't want to understand how Trump operates. He's a bull in a china shop. He's been his entire life. He doesn't hold anything back, and that's quite frankly why people voted for him. Was to be this sort of thing. I read that letter that he sent to Erdogan, and I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Other people think it was, over the top. There was a Democratic congressman, we have the story up at the Blaze, who basically said, I didn't think Trump was mental. He's like, have you people never been to the Northeast? Have you never talked to a New Yorker? Have you never talked to somebody from Queens? This is how people talk. They're braggadocious. They make things bigger than they are. It's just Trump's personality. He didn't have a meltdown. That's just who he is. Maybe we should try and figure out how to work with him.
He's also not the one who was standing up shaking his finger in anyone else's face. He looked pretty calm when he was sitting there, as he usually is. It's interesting, too, because talking about this picture, if we can show that one more time, we really have, feminists all over the place. Oh, my gosh, so brave, so courageous. This is what I want my daughter to look like when she grows up. This is what I want to teach her to do. Stu, can you tell me if the picture were reversed and it was Donald Trump standing up, shaking his finger in Nancy Pelosi's face, how that would be perceived?
Not well, not well. And we keep seeing this pattern from feminists today when some, a woman stands up and either points or continues to talk past a buzzer or whatever, and they make these out to be these big feminist statements of power. And it's like, if your statement of power is standing up, pointing your finger at someone, you don't have any power, right? Like that's just nothing. Anyone can do that. It is she's the the Speaker of the House. Like she doesn't need to stand up and point. It's just like this. Everything's symbolic. Everything's imagery, and none of this is real. None of it. They just continually come out to these microphones looking to posture themselves for the next election. At some point, it would be nice if they started focusing on getting something done, but then if they did that, it would be terrifying because they'd have something done. And what they want to do is usually negative. So maybe this is better.
I think a real demonstration of power would be to not be offended by somebody calling you a name, because you are the Speaker of the House and you shouldn't be that insecure to where if somebody calls you a third-rate politician, you take that to the heart and you just have to run out of the meeting. I mean, that would be a real demonstration of power. That's how I would tell my daughter to probably handle that situation, but that's just me.
Well, and Rob, to your point, you know, she said, what did she say in her little clip? She said, well, he is not a politician, because whatever her little zinger was that didn't even make sense. I mean, it's like, well, he's not a politician, but at least he's saying it to your face, because Nancy Pelosi and all of those people in there have basically called him Hitler. Right? Like they're saying terrible things about him on Twitter behind his back in press conferences. I mean, I got to give him a little bit of credit for at least having the chutzpah to say it directly to her face, right?
Right, and I think that's Washington, right? Washington, nobody talks to anybody to their face. And to your point, Stu, about the, you know, if they got something done, then they'd have something done, but then they couldn't raise more money.
Right, yeah.
You know, the whole industry of Washington, D.C. is send more money, and next time we'll get this fixed. We saw it with the Republicans throughout the 2000s with the Tea Party, and now we're seeing it here. It's the exact same thing. It's the send more money.
And, you know, look, for all the horrible things that Schumer and Pelosi say about Trump, the least they can do is return his donations. I mean, they at least send back the money that he's donated to their campaigns in the past. It's just disrespectful.
Who do you think had the meltdown, Aaron?
Oh, Pelosi clearly is melting down. She left the meeting. I mean, that's the ultimate meltdown. You can't even stay in the room. So
it becomes. Honestly, I think that they've overplayed this impeachment thing already, too, right? Because it's just repetitive now that every single thing the president does, they're like, he's losing it.
Yeah.
He's not fit for office. Like
it doesn't even have any value when you say it. It doesn't even impact you anymore.
Stu, your thoughts?
Megyn Kelly said this in this interview the other night, where she said, when you turn everything up to an 11, there's no such thing as an 11. Yeah. And that it's very true. It's what they do all the time. They've turned this into an activist career, the media and politicians. And at some point, there's no effect. There's no longer an effect on people. I think half the country, you know, I think the media legitimately, when something comes out about the Trump administration that is, you know, potentially really serious, and no one reacts and they're just puzzled. Well, it's because you just told us the last 90 things he tweeted were the end of his presidency. Of course we don't believe you.
And it's not just Trump, right? It's been every Republican since I've been elected. Yep. They've been saying these things about. Sure. And, you know, the one thing, today is the 1,001 day of the Trump presidency, right? For 1,001 days, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, everybody in the Democratic caucus, and the entire media gets up every day and says, this is the day we're going to get Trump. And every day, it doesn't happen.
It's no wonder we feel so tired all the time, right? We've been dealing with that for over 1,000 days. You say 1,001. It started way before that, because they were saying it before he even was inaugurated.
Yeah, I'm just doing the inauguration. I mean, it's Groundhog Day every single day. We are living in Groundhog Day.
I think we've all aged 10 years since that happened. Back in a minute. Oh.
1,001 days. Oh my God.
Isn't that like?
Glenn Kessler tweeted yesterday.
Before we get back into the news of the day, we want to thank our sponsor, Genesis 950. So Genesis 950 is a lifesaver in my house, being the crazy cat lady that I am. You know, they're like throwing up hairballs and stuff, and it always happens to be on the carpet. They never do it on the, there's wood floor in like 90% of my house, just on the carpet and the rugs that they decide to yak up their hairballs. I don't know.
And have comfortable padded steps as they do it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And Stu, I know your wife has used Genesis 950. You guys have pets?
Yep, we do. I know Pat Gray as well. He was saying that he had professional cleaners come in to clean his carpet in one particular spot. Didn't even get it out, and then he used Genesis 950, and it actually got it out right away. So he wasted a bunch of his money, which I was happy to remind him of.
So if you are thinking about maybe replacing your carpets, maybe they're just old, they're stained. It doesn't have to be pet stuff. They're stained, they have odors, whatever the case may be. Before you do that, that's a huge investment. You got to try Genesis 950 instead. Genesis 950, it breaks down the bonds of the stains and odors, so they're gone for good. It's safe for your family, it's safe for your pets. We've used it here. We love it. You got to go to genesis950.com. You will get a free spray bottle and discount using code BLAZE. You can also get it on Amazon. For those of you who just kind of live on Amazon, you're like, I'm not going to go to another website. I order everything in my life on Amazon. Okay, that's fine. Go to Amazon, but if you want the free spray bottle and the discount, you use promo code BLAZE at genesis950.com. By the way, you can clean your entire house with it. It's not just carpets, bathrooms, kitchens, countertops, oil and grease stains on your engine. Come on, this stuff is amazing. Genesis950.com. Okay, so Elijah Cummings, we just found out this morning that Elijah Cummings passed away. Representative Elijah Cummings, of course, from Baltimore, the age of 68. Thoughts and prayers go out to his family and friends. I mean, I had heard that he was sick, right? He had just been hospitalized. Mm-hmm. Didn't get a lot of details on what exactly the health issues were. So I did think, I mean, I was shocked. I don't know if any of you felt the same thing. Yeah. You were or you weren't?
I was definitely shocked.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
The news came out, I think, late overnight, 2:33 in the morning, and nobody really knows, even now, I think, what was going on with him. And so it's just one of those tragedies that kind of hits you, because you think that every indication was that he was going to be coming back soon, coming back to work. And so, yeah, thoughts and prayers with the family. It's nice to see, he was one of those guys that even the people who disagreed with him politically still had a respect for him. Mm-hmm. He was a person who had values, and he stuck to those values, and he fought for those values. And so whatever you think of that politically, it's good to see, people showing him that respect. And those are the kind of politicians you want. You don't want people who are taking a position or taking a stance because it's expedient to them, because it benefits them. You want somebody who truly believes in what they're fighting for, and even if you disagree with it, those are the kind of people that you can work with, because you know where they're coming from, you know what they're getting from them. So.
Yeah, and even President Trump, he tweeted actually a really classy tweet from Trump. It said, "My warmest condolences to the family and many friends of Congressman Elijah Cummings. I got to see firsthand the strength, passion, and wisdom of this highly respected political leader. His work and voice on so many fronts will be very hard, if not impossible, to replace." Still, that's a good tweet from Trump, right?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, are you surprised?
No, I mean, he's not going to trash the guy 5 hours after he dies, probably. But I mean, they got into a big fight recently. That was the whole Baltimore thing. We had
exactly.
We had Scott here yesterday, who was was tied into that whole story. It's nice that he's taking a moment. I think most people are respectful enough to kind of step back off the politics. You kind of do get a moment of realizing how dumb some of the political stories are. Yeah. I mean, like, these back and forths really are somewhat meaningless in the end of the day. But I mean, I did like the fact that the Washington Post, as its seemingly his only big, responsibility in his life, his only accomplishment was targeting, or he was a target of Trump, I believe the way they put it.
That was their headline. Yes, it said, and we have that here. It's Representative Elijah Cummings, Democratic leader and regular Trump target, ties at 68.
So disrespectful to his legacy.
So disrespectful, Rob.
It's ridiculous. He did, and that tweet actually brings you back to a time like in the 80s when Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill were best friends. They were like the what was it, the sheepdog and the coyote in that old cartoon where you'd fight all day, but at night you'd have a coffee or have some beer or do something like that. And I think that we need more of that, where people actually can agree to disagree and can fight when they're in the arena. And the other thing that gets me, and it's as I get older, 68's not that old. No. And that's what, I used to think 68 was old.
Yeah.
And as you get closer to it.
Now you're like, I hope 68's not that old, because I'm almost there. Yeah.
And you think of how many people are running for president who are above 70. 68 is far too young for somebody to be passing away like that.
That's a great point. The president, Joe Biden, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, all of the top.
Mike Gravel. He was 89. Mike Gravel. No. He did drop out, though.
Did he?
He did.
Oh, that's a bummer. He was getting so much traction.
I know.
And then it just went away. Aaron, we mentioned briefly the column that you have up at theblaze.com right now about a story that we've discussed on a previous episode. What happened with the Fort Worth police officer who shot and killed the resident who was in her home, Tatiana Jefferson. So, of course, they went through her backyard, did not identify themselves, did not announce that they were there, shined their flashlights, made some rummaging noises. She comes to the window. He yells at her to put her hands up, shoots her without identifying himself again, or finishing his thought, by the way. He, of course, has been charged with murder. We found out today that they released a statement, Fort Worth Police Department, that she was pointing a gun through the window. Does that
because
change anything for you, Aaron?
It doesn't change. It shows me that she was aware that she was wanting to protect the 8-year-old who was in that home. You know, it's 2:30 in the morning and somebody's coming into your backyard. What are you going to assume besides there's an intruder who is going to threaten my life? I mean, any gun owner, anybody who's worried about defending their home would do the same thing. And so you hate to see, like, you understand that the facts have to come out and what's happening is going to come out, but you hate to see it painted in any way that she may have been a threat in her own home, that her possession of a gun or her pointing of a gun justified in any way the officer's actions. You just hate to see that put into the narrative in a way that does that, because she was defending herself, she was justified, and she was an innocent victim. You can't be a threat in your own home. You're not committing any crime. If somebody comes to your house, you have the right to do what you have to do. So.
Yeah. Does this add to the, they released the statement, right? Fort Worth Police released the statement that said, they made sure to say, and they released the body cam footage with a still photo. Oh, look, there was a firearm in here. Oh, by the way, we recovered a firearm at the scene. And it's like, I realize that the facts need to come out, but it just kind of seems that they're trying to fit this narrative here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it changes anything as far as, it doesn't change that they were wrong the way they approach it. It doesn't change that he should be charged with murder. It doesn't change that it's a terrible tragedy. One thing it changes a little bit for me is at least it gives me some sort of explanation as to what the hell was going on. Yeah. I mean, because you look at the video and you're like, what? Wait a minute, you just saw someone walk into a room and you start shooting? Forget the fact that you're a police officer. If you are walking up there and someone's pointing a gun at you, there is a natural human response, even though he's in the wrong. Yeah. If he's worried he's going to get shot. Yeah. So he tries to not get shot. That does not make it okay. He should still be charged with murder. Everything about the incident is terribly wrong and tragic. But like, it does to me diffuse a little bit of this idea that he's just like coming in the backyard to kill a black person, which was kind of the way the media has presented it. You know, it's a little bit more nuanced than that, but I mean, you can see it happening in a way, really just a confluence of awful coincidences. You know, they're in the back there. He's probably going back there to really see if there's a burglar there. She walks out, totally understandably, looking with a gun after she hears those noises. He's got a gun pointed. Now they've got two guns pointed at each other. As we know from Reservoir Dogs, that does not turn out particularly well. So, I mean, it does at least explain how it happened, but it doesn't make it any better.
What I still want to know, and maybe this has come out and I haven't seen it, is what were the officers told when they were responding to that call? Were they told that it was a burglary? Were they told that it was a welfare check? Because I do want to know, like, what mindset did they have?
Yeah, because you said there were conflicting reports,
right?
There
were. Like, the call sheet said burglary, something said open structure, and so we don't know what mindset they came into, whether they thought they were going to encounter a threat, or whether they thought, as the neighbor called in said, was that they were going to check on somebody whose lights were on and door was open.
And he did call the non-emergency
yes, he did.
line.
Again, everything about the story is terrible, you know, but, you know, it's like if you just happened, if a police officer stopped on the side of the road, walked out, and someone walked out their front door with the gun pointed at them, a human reaction is going to be to point a gun. It does not make it cool, but that is the way these things can go down.
Yeah, Rob, last word.
Yeah, I don't even know how to process things like this, but what I hope is that the gun rights organizations stand up for this woman, because we see it a lot, and you hate to say it, but the NRA doesn't stand up a lot when it's people of color that exercise their Second Amendment rights, and they should. Yeah. And I would love to see the NRA and other groups just come out and strongly say, no, this is not what should have happened.
Yeah. All right, back in a minute. I just keep wondering, like, could you imagine what would have happened? No, there are a lot of you, maybe you're watching on YouTube, you're watching YouTube Live, maybe you're watching on Facebook, the Facebook stream, maybe you're just watching on the BlazeTV app and you're not listening to the podcast. Okay, remember, today is the last day to enter our contest. All you have to do, you go to the podcast, audio podcast, wherever you get your audio podcast, go rate it, 5 stars, obviously. Subscribe, show us that you have rated it and subscribed. And if you want to throw in a review and flatter us all, that would be awesome too. Maybe we'll put it on television, who knows. But go do that, take a screenshot of it, send it to me on whatever social media you use most. I prefer Twitter, it's easier for me to see there, but send it to me. We're compiling all of your entries into our contest to win free merch from our revamped, awesome new Blaze Media shop. We've got t-shirts, we've got hats, we've got mugs, and those are the 3 things that you can pick from. You can pick a t-shirt, a hat, a mug, from whatever show you want. If you're like, I mean, I like the News and Why It Matters, Sarah, but I don't really like your logo. That's fine. I get it. You can pick a Glenn Beck t-shirt. You can pick a Graham Allen Baby Lives Matter t-shirt. You can pick, what are some of the other hot sellers,
You can get a Colonel Glenn.
Colonel Glenn. I love Colonel Glenn.
A Colonel Glenn t-shirt. It's a double-sided Colonel Glenn t-shirt.
Ooh, okay, so more bang for your buck, or not buck, because you're getting it for free. All you got to do to enter is you got to go subscribe, rate the podcast, and send it to me. We're going to be doing the winners tomorrow. Overtime starts next.